Okay, Dr. Fred here with Elite Coaching and on ChiroUnited Podcast. Yes, if you notice, we took about a year and a half off, but we are consistent doing this every week now. So welcome back. And I'm pretty darn excited to be hanging out with you, Gilles. You've been such a great leader for so long. And, we've done podcasts with you before, and it's great to have you back. And because last time, man, so many things have happened since the last time we sat down and talked like this. So just welcome.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to do a podcast knowing that it's going out to chiropractors and that we get the opportunity to inspire people to be their best and improve their certainty and make them realize that they were chosen to be a chiropractor for a reason. And that's to be an awesome, exceptional chiropractor and nothing but. And I have been blessed. I was blessed with an amazing career. And yes, like all of you, had challenges along the way, but the challenges were overcome. And I am still so proud and so inspired to call myself a chiropractor. I mean, that's who I am. The first and foremost, when people ask me, who are you? I'm a chiropractor. And then, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, and all that stuff. But I'm a chiropractor. This is in my heart. This is in my soul. And, in speaking to students at Life University or other chiropractors, I am still convinced, even though we know there's issues in the profession, there's issues in the healthcare, I am still convinced that there's never been a better time in history to be a chiropractor. And I mean, like right now, 2018, there's never been a better time. And I don't know if you agree, Fred, but that's where I come from. And I know I've been saying that for a few decades, but it just seems like it gets better and better and better. And yeah, there was this thing, they called the Mercedes 80s with insurance, all the rest of that stuff. But that was all about making money. Why is it the best time? Because humanity is ready for you and me. Humanity is ready to understand chiropractic. They're searching. Today, I was in a surgical suite, an orthopedic surgical suite, and I observed two surgeries, both knees, both fascinating. I mean, the orthopedic surgeon, 48-year-old guy, was just absolutely astounding. He was an artist to watch what he was doing. And somebody would say, well, what brought you there? Well, guess what brought us there? He says, I'm 48 years old. If I had enough money, my career would be over, but I have to force myself to continue because I don't yet. And every day I go to work with my spine in a mess. And we were in there to try to figure out how could we create, that's the start, that's what he asked, how could we create a smart surgical suite that would focus, not only, he says, we do a great job taking care of the patient. He said, we do a horrible job taking care of ourselves.
Right. And
so we were there to observe and how they do things and how it could change and the ergonomics of a surgical suite. And then, of course, we talked about chiropractic. We talked about brain health. We talked about neurological health. And, as good as this surgeon is, and I can't tell you his name, but he is a famous guy on knees. He repairs everybody else's mistakes. He said, Jill, you're telling me stuff I had no idea about.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's crazy. So he is ready. And I said, I want you to watch a documentary, Doctored, by Jeff Hayes. I said, there's a section in there where an orthopedic surgeon is getting adjusted by his chiropractor. And I'm going to paraphrase because it's been a couple years since I watched it. But the orthopedic surgeon says, this man saved my life. This man saved my career. Who would have thought when I was in medical school that my primary care practitioner would be a chiropractor?
Isn't that amazing?
And here I was sharing with this orthopod, here in Atlanta. And I don't know, it brings me to this thought that there's never been a better time. People like him are ready. He said, you think I'm bad? Because we talked about everything we were seeing. And he was aware of a lot of stuff we were showing him. He said, the guy in the surgical suite next to me is a plastic surgeon. He does like $35,000, $40,000 facelifts. He's sitting there for 4 hours at a time. He said he is now the recipient of 2 failed back surgeries.
Yeah.
And he wants to understand what the heck you guys do because he doesn't understand what you do either. So from that perspective, the fact that, we were kept at bay by the medical profession for so many years, and I'm not one like kiss a doctor's butt. I'm just like, chiropractic is for everybody who's got a spine and who can breathe. If you can fog a mirror and you have a spine, you should be at a chiropractor. And that's how we need to talk to people. But when those people that were on the fringe and even pushing us away for years are starting to come on board and go, there's something about what you guys do. We need to learn about what you guys do. Like, we need your help. So today, 3 of us, chiropractor for the Neurolife Institute, myself and another chiropractor friend here, brought us together. And there we were in that surgical suite trying to help this doctor. So from, the people out there, they want what you and I know to be true as much, if not more, than that doctor who sees chiropractic as potentially saving his career. It's a powerful place to be.
That is absolutely fascinating. And I'm going to go way back because, there's so many one-liners and gems that you said in there. And as you're going on, I'm like, there's something. Let's start with the beginning. Chiropractic is a life purpose. And when you practice, you had a high volume practice and the reason, you say 20 years ago was the best time, 30 years ago the best time, 2018 is the best time, because you came into this life to do this.
Absolutely.
And the principle and the purpose is so great that your stamina and conviction, and you listen to your passion. Like, I think it grows every year. How long have you been a chiropractor, man? How long have you been licensed?
39 years.
39. Yeah, 39. 30. So almost 40 years. And do you feel you're more fired up about it today than ever before?
I will tell you, I am as fired up today as I was the day I graduated from chiropractic school.
Oh, there you go. So you've been extremely fired up. Yeah, your purpose.
Yeah, the energy that I have is, I would say, equivalent. Yeah, of course, I'm 40 years older, but the stamina that I have for chiropractic and all things great is as strong as ever. And I always bring it back. People ask me, like, I had a student approach me last week and said, could I meet with you? I had no idea who the student was. Found a time to meet with him, and I met with him today for like 30 minutes. He's a first quarter student, and he just wanted some mentorship, And I took him through a couple of exercises in that 30 minutes I was with him. But I always bring people back to purpose.
Right.
How clear is your purpose? And, if you ask an audience, a general chiropractic audience, how many of you have a clearly defined purpose for your life? My count on average, doesn't matter the size of the crowd, is less than 10% have a clearly defined purpose for their life and a clearly defined practice purpose statement. Then I go, so of those of you who have your hand up, and I won't embarrass you, but if I was to ask you to come to the front of the room, how many of you could repeat your purpose statement verbatim? Boom. More than 50, 60% of the hands go down. So if you're in a room of 200, you may get 20 people have their hands up for the first one. You may get 10 or less people who have their hands up for the second question. And then I say, well, let me share with you why purpose is important. And I've been blessed with some fantastic mentors, Fred, over the years. And one of them was Wayne Dyer. And I'm going to paraphrase something from one of Wayne Dyer's mentors, who he knew just from his readings because he had been dead for centuries before Wayne discovered him, but an ancient philosopher by the name of Patanjali. And as Wayne says it, and I paraphrase, apparently at some point, Patanjali was asked, why is having a purpose for your life so important? And he went on to say, purpose is crucial to living an extraordinary life because purpose inspires you. And when you're inspired by some grand purpose, he said, your thoughts transcend their bonds. You need to think about these one-liners here. Your thoughts transcend your bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction. And you discover these dormant forces, faculties, and talents that actually come alive. And then you realize you're a greater person by far than you ever thought possible. And so the key points of that is when you're inspired by a great purpose, your thoughts transcend their bonds. I mean, how many times have you been held bondage by your thoughts?
Oh, everybody. Yeah.
A lot, right? A lot. How many times have you had thoughts that limit you? You're not good enough, you're not tall enough, you're not pretty enough, you're too old, you're not young, whatever it might be. All these crappy thoughts. He said, when you're inspired by a grand purpose, he said, your mind transcends limitations. So these are the things that stop, right? Your thoughts transcend their bonds, your mind transcends limitations. And then the third one is your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in this new, great, wonderful world where dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive. Wow. That's why having a purpose is so darn important.
Well, and that's what you said. Why is 2018 the best year to be in chiropractic? Because your world transcends. You exactly said the same theme. Obviously, you did that with intention, and you got that quote in front of you. But yeah, we use that one all the time.
It's a powerful quote, because if you live your life from that space, that's what you get to live every single day. So, I have a ritual that brings me to that space every single morning. And my morning ritual really starts tonight. So my tomorrow morning ritual is going to start tonight, because the last words that I will consciously input into my brain before I go to sleep tonight is, when I awaken tomorrow, I will greet this day with love in my heart, every person, every situation, every circumstance, because I choose to make my life sacred.
Nice.
And
say that again so people can get this.
Tomorrow when I awaken, I will greet this day with love in my heart, every person, every situation, every circumstance, because I choose to make my life sacred. So when I wake up tomorrow morning, it's almost the exact same words, except the beginning. I say, today, I greet this day with love in my heart, every person, every situation, every circumstance, because I choose to make my life sacred. And so when you come from that space, and then the next conscious words that I repeat in the morning is my purpose statement. So my generic purpose statement, I've had as my crafted statement for probably 30 plus years now. I tweaked it over the years, but it hasn't changed in a long time. And it's, I pledge my life to my greatest expression of love and service for the benefit of humanity. So everything I do has to fit on that. And I see that as the platform for my life. Gilles' life is built on this solid platform that's based on this pledge that I made to myself, that I remake to myself every single morning. So you think about it, right? I pledge my life to my greatest expression of love and service for the benefit of humanity. So all day long, I look around for how could I love and serve more?
Yeah.
And it's easy.
Well, once again, there's so many gems in there. Number one, you have that mantra or intention before you go to bed. See, and this, highly successful, world-changing people, they're not necessarily any smarter. They have different habits that put them in a different state. And because of that state, like you said, like Patanjali said, your mind transcends limitation.
Absolutely.
Because of your rituals. And your rituals have a standard of excellence. And,
always.
Yeah, and great leaders have a standard of excellence. Like I look at, we have great visions, and you can, you visualize. Creative visualization was Shaki Gawain wrote about creative visualization. And, Albert Einstein, imagination is more powerful than knowledge. So there, there's all these quotes. Yet you put yourself in that state because not only is the vision amazing, but the fear of not doing it is a lot of pain. Like I know sometimes where it's like, shit, man, I'm overwhelmed, or I don't want to do that. And I think, what if I don't? And then all of a sudden and then it's like, I'm not going through that pain, man. I mean, sometimes that's how I motivate myself. When you got to do something you're not familiar with, say, what if I don't do it? That's not an option. Then all of a sudden I'm fired up to do it.
Yeah, I mean, people either want to prevent pain or they want to increase pleasure. I can tell you, if you want to create a pleasurable life, start by finding out your purpose. Get really, really clear on your purpose, and then create rituals that will actually allow you to stay aligned with your purpose. I've read a lot of great books, obviously, but one of the greatest books that I've reread a number of times is The Greatest Salesman in the World by Ognendino.
Oh, yeah.
And in that book, he's got 10 scrolls, like 10 lessons.
Right.
So my initial words that I consciously input into my brain in the morning are the initial words of that are actually taken from the second scroll. I greet this day with love in my heart. I just added other words because they speak to me. And I discovered that book after I'd already crafted my purpose statement. So I discovered that book. I was like, wow, that is like just a natural fit with who I want to become, because that's not who I was at the beginning, right? People that know me now see me as this sort of extrovert guy and, pleasurable, having fun and just doing what I love. I am like naturally an introvert. I was bullied a lot as a kid. I was a little tiny kid. I got picked on a lot. And so I shut down, and I didn't start opening up until I was in, I think, third year of chiropractic school, when I was with a gentleman by the name of Richard Yenny, and I was sharing my chiropractic story. And he said, "Well, you got to tell that to everybody. That's going to help you, spread the word of chiropractic." Instead, I was like, "Oh no, you don't understand. I'm way too shy for that."
Yeah.
And he looked at me. He was like, "What are you talking about?" And then he gave me these words that I remember to this day. He said, "What gives you the right to know truth and not share it?" And when he did that, Fred, he was poking me in the chest. I was like, "Ouch, this was hurting." And he kept doing it until I answered, "Nothing gives you that right." He said, "You're right, young man. Nothing gives you the right to know a truth and not share it." So for all our chiropractic colleagues who say, "Well, you don't understand, I can't really do a talk. I'm too shy to do a group report." That's all BS. Get over yourself. I had to get over myself. Get over yourself, and it's going to be easy when you have a clear purpose. So once my purpose got clear, the shyness then was no longer an issue, because it was like, well, I have to do this. And so I'm going to get over it. And of course I got over it, because now, I could walk on a Cal Jam stage with 3,000 people. I've walked on Parker stages and emceed with 5,000 people in the audience. And I'm not going to say I'm not a little nervous, but there's no more shyness, because the power of purpose always drives you. Always drives you.
Repetition. Once again, there's so many gems in there. A lot of great leaders are highly introverted people. World changers are highly introverted. Just look at the profession. Chris Zano, very introverted. Pat Gentempo, very introverted. I'm very introverted. Billy DeMoss, as crazy as he is, he regenerates on his own.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So you look at, you're very introverted. And so introverted is not shyness, it's how you regenerate. Like if I'm in a social situation, I'm not the life of the party, but Chris Zano, he stands in the shadow in the corner, but because of his purpose, he gets out on stage. Because of your purpose, you get out on stage.
Exactly.
And then it's just a matter of conditioning, man. When you do it enough times, then eventually you're not nervous anymore. I would say I get more anxious for the result than I am about speaking.
Yes, I get that.
Yeah, you want to move the audience more than nervous about getting out there. But that's it's straight repetition. First time I gave a workshop, it was 3 people and I had diarrhea all day. So if anybody, the second time I didn't have diarrhea, I thought it was a big win.
Exactly. And it was a big win, wasn't it?
Yes. But once again, it's like, what if I don't do it? It's like that's what it is. Purpose drives everything.
I talk chiropractic. I tell people that whenever I have a reservation or an appointment anywhere, I always, my assistant or it's been for years, I always make it as Dr. Gilles LaMarche. And I do that not because they're going to give me better service because they think I'm a real doctor. I do that because the first question they're about to ask me is, "So what kind of doctor are you?"
Exactly.
And the minute that happens, they're open to a conversation. So I never have to throw up chiropractic on people. I just have a conversation about chiropractic. And it's amazing, when you say, what happens when you don't? And so the example or the story, the real experience that comes to mind for me often when I talk about that is, I was getting into the back of a cab at the Toronto airport, and at the time I was the president of the licensing board in Ontario. And I'm getting into the cab, and my assistant had booked the reservation, so the cab would be waiting for me when I got off the plane, straight to a meeting kind of idea. And the guy said to me, "Oh, Dr. LaMarche, what kind of doctor are you?" I said, "I'm a chiropractor." He was a gentleman of Indian descent. Later told me he'd been in Canada for about 5 years. He said, "I heard the term chiropractor, but what do you guys really do?" So I go into my conversation more Socratic. So I don't say, chiropractic, da. I was like, "Well, can I ask you a couple of questions?" He said, "Sure." I said, "If you think back to high school science class, what do you remember your teacher telling you was the most important system in the human body?" And I'll tell you, the number one answer, if we were in America playing Family Feud, the number one answer you're going to get is not what you and I know. Right. It's not the nervous system. Right. Number one answer is the heart. Right. And so, of course, he says to me, "The heart." I said, So I'm going to assume that you went to sleep last night. He said, yes. I said, you woke up this morning, your heart was still beating. What told your heart to do that? He was like, I don't know. I said, you look like you're pretty fit. Do you ever exercise? He said, sure. I said, do you ever notice when you exercise, your heart starts to beat faster, you start to breathe quickly, you start to sweat so that your body can accommodate to the change? He said, yes. I said, what tells your body to do that? He says, I don't know. And then I go to, what's in here? He said, my brain. I said, what does the brain control? Number one answer, everything. You see, society knows that the brain controls everything. They just don't know how to get from there to the rest of the body. And they don't know that there can be interference between the messages from there to the rest of the body. When you get to them to understand that, they go, like, the lights come on. And he says to me, God put you in my cat today. And I'm the type of guy, I believe I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be because that's where I'm supposed to be, and I never question that. But I said to him, why would you say that? He went on to explain to me that his wife was under 24-hour watch. So when he left for work, his mother-in-law would come in, watch over his wife, and his mother-in-law was elderly. He was afraid that his wife was going to be able to push her off somehow and take her own life because she told him that she couldn't live the way she was, and she wanted to commit suicide. It started with neck pain. It was down her arm. She'd lost the function of her arm now. She had these massive headaches, all these symptoms going on. And then I'm sitting in the back seat. He's looking in the rearview mirror. He said, do you think I should take her to a chiropractor? I said, what do you think? He was like, I think I must take her to a chiropractor. He said, absolutely. So he said, who do I take her to? I said, where do you live? He says, Mississauga. I said, give me your email address. When I get into the office, I'll find a few colleagues that I know, and I'll send you their information, and you can take your wife to one of them. And I'll tell you, it still gives me shivers after more than a decade because I never spoke to this man since, but I did get a very short email from him 6 or 8 weeks later. And it was, thank you for saving my wife's life. I went, damn it. What if? What if I had not been willing to have the conversation? Might she have committed suicide? He told me she was going to commit suicide, but he had to go to work every day to raise his family, to feed his kids. So whenever I have a doubt that I sort of want to just be a bit of a recluse and not talk about who we are and what we do, I go, what if? What if that Indian lady, what if I hadn't been willing to talk to her husband about chiropractic? I just kick myself in the butt and I just keep going.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's funny. I mean, obviously you've, run across hundreds and hundreds of doctors. You had a big practice, but that is how you build a practice. When people say there's no new patients, all you got to do is just look out your window. They're everywhere.
Everywhere.
What it is.
Everywhere.
When people are standing in front of you, rubbing their neck or nothing or wherever you are, if you're just open, then you build a practice so fast.
And don't be afraid of being rejected. Be willing to be accepted in a conversation. That's it. And if they decide they don't want to talk to you about it, then walk away. You haven't gained anything. You haven't lost anything. I often use the example of, I remember my oldest son, the first time that he wanted to invite a girl to, I don't know if it was a spring dance or a Christmas dance, whatever it was in high school, probably 9th or 10th grade. So he really wanted to invite this girl. And I said, so give her a call and invite her. So, well, I can't. What if she says no? I said, well, can I propose something? He said, sure. I said, right now, you do not have a date for this dance, and you'd like to have a date. He said, yes. I said, if you call her and she says yes, you have a date. If you call her and she says no, you're right back to where you were anyway, you haven't lost anything. And he looked at me and was like, gosh, that's simple. I said, exactly. Exactly.
It's in the simplicity, isn't it?
Exactly. If you call her and she says yes, you now have a date. If you call her and she says no, you're exactly where you were before you started. You haven't lost anything.
So the problem was he left a message, asked her a question, called somebody else, and he had 2 dates.
No, he called this girl and she said yes, we had a date. But he would have never called her otherwise because he was actually afraid to call her. And I think that some of our colleagues have that same fear. Well, what if they reject me? So what? Some will, some won't. So what? Somebody's waiting. What I call my 4SW formula. When it comes to having a conversation with someone, some will accept the conversation and accept what you're sharing with them. Some people won't. So what?
I also think fear, when people say, well, I don't want to be rejected, usually people don't say that, but they may verbalize it or not. But it's like when you see yourself as a messenger and you look at there is a servant and a messenger, there is no rejection or acceptance. There's just your message. And it's a principle. And if you're afraid of being rejected, or you'll think people might not accept you, then what you're doing is you're putting yourself in front of your purpose. And that's why purpose is always first. And then you don't think about yourself. And that's what you've said in so many words and one-liners, that when you want to serve, you're all about service. And when you're focused on service, you're not focused on yourself. And so acceptance or rejection isn't an issue.
Not a big deal.
Say, when you give up the right, or when you give up the need to be liked and accepted, you gain the gift of being loved and respected.
Oh, I love that line. That's a beautiful line. You need to quote that more often. I've heard it, but not said so eloquently as you just did.
Yeah. So, that's a
beautiful line.
Yeah. We teach all that stuff. But, another thing you said, because you said so many great things, you talk about your mantra, that statement you make in the night and the morning. And the main theme of that is love. And really, It's love. When you look at purpose, what's the fuel for purpose? And that's your love for humanity.
Absolutely.
When you love humanity, that's the fuel and the emotion that puts in the purpose, that puts you in the new state. David Hawkins, quantum physicist, developed the map of consciousness. You're familiar with it. And love, when you look at unconditional love, his units for 500, vibrating 500, the physical manifestation of unconditional love is revelation. So when you look at that and you function at love, like what you do, you put yourself in the state of love. Last thing you do first in the day, first thing in the morning, you're putting yourself into a state where your mind is transcending limitation. Oh, look at you.
When you said it, I knew exactly where it was in my bookcase. It was literally to the left. And I was like, I look at this often because I actually work diligently to vibrate at 700.
Nice.
And, 700 is enlightenment. So I work at, what would my life be like? So living at 500 for me is ease, because I've worked it over the years. Jim Parker was my personal mentor. Loving service, my first technique, was the first time I heard that from him. I had no idea what the heck he meant. Then I got to understand it. I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. Unconditional love for another human being, right? The agape love of just loving someone because they're human. Common humanity would allow us to actually just love someone. And so over time, I continued to, when I read Power versus Force, I started getting deeper into understanding this. And then maybe 10 years after I'd read it the first time, Wayne Dyer suggested to me again. So I read it again. And then I ended up getting a copy of this. And I looked, well, it would be easy to move from love to joy. Yeah. So how am I going to do that? So move from 500 to 540, and then move into a space of peace, and feel a sense of bliss, a sense of the perfection that surrounds me everywhere. I mean, I bought somebody. I'm the chair of the library foundation here in Cobb County, and so we had one of our staff leaving. So I went and bought her this beautiful bouquet of flowers today, and we had our board meeting tonight, and I brought it and I gave it to her. But before I gave it to her, I literally looked at the bouquet and I was like, wow. Not only the way it was made, but the perfection of every flower. I can't name every flower, but there were some red roses and some purple roses and all sorts of other different flowers. And I just was in this sense of presence and a sense of peace around the perfection that was right there, like right in front of me. So often people don't take the time to see it. It's everywhere, right? I mean, I went to my mailbox early this morning, and there's a huge rose bush there, and I just checked to see if it's going to start to bloom, because the guy across the street, his beautiful cherry tree is blooming already. But I looked at the perfection of the roses that were cut back in the fall that already are starting to show a sign of life after being frozen through a couple of weeks of winter here in Atlanta. And then I looked across the street again, and I saw this beautiful pink blossoms on this cherry tree. I was like, we live in a perfect world.
Yeah, we do.
And so when we start finding that and experiencing that, then we move our level of vibration up to joy. And then the next one is enlightenment. It's a little bit more difficult for me to get to enlightenment on a regular basis. I don't have a lot of trouble being at 600. I have more trouble getting to 700.
Yeah,
but
let me interrupt real quick, because peace, when you have total internal peace, the manifestation in the world is transfiguration. That means you can change physical matter. So from the state of inner peace, you truly can create on a quantum level and literally pull from the spirit world and physical world. Not only that, but as a chiropractor and a hands-on healer, you need to prepare your spirit before you go into the adjusting area. Get in the level of internal peace before you lay your hands on anybody, and people will be healed. You know, BJ talks about the adjustment with the extra something. That's the fuel of your state and your ability to channel that universal energy. When you're in a state of internal peace, physical bodies will heal.
And you know, it's interesting you bring that up, because it just brought back a thought of a little activity that was mentioned to me that I created for my practice when I was learning to be that way, when I was learning to really connect with another human being innate to innate. And it was Larry Markson that was speaking about that. And he suggested that we take, you know, you go to Office Depot or something like that, you buy these little sheets of little dots. And so in my adjusting area at eye level, I had a little green dot at every table. And I would take, you know, before electronic records, I would look at the travel card. Okay. Fred came in 3 days ago. We adjusted this, blah, 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 whatever. I just take a look. Then I close my eyes, and I had my little mantra, which was guide me to do what's right for Fred today, for example. And I would just get into that state. I mean, it takes seconds, right? Once you get used to it. And as soon as I felt ready, I would actually touch the little green dot.
Nice.
It was an anchor that Larry taught me. And I'll tell you, after doing that for a year or two, I didn't need a green dot. I didn't need anything. I would just get into that space, walk in, you put your hands on people. And as you mentioned, I mean, the healing starts before you ever even adjust them.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a powerful place to be, but we've got to create that state for ourselves so we can translate that state to other people.
Exactly. That's our responsibility.
Yeah,
that's so awesome. What a great anchor. You know, for the people listening, that, you know, that would be a great thing, whether it's a green dot or whatever it is, do something physical. That's like a big NLP thing. You know, you do, whether it's touch a part of your body, but just that automatically puts you in that state and wire yourself for that state before you touch anybody, and do it between patients so you can do it in a breath. It's
an anchor, so you change your state automatically. And that way, when you're seeing a lot of people, it allows you to connect with that person. By choosing to connect with that person, you have now disconnected from the one you just saw before. You have to focus on disconnecting. Just focus on being connected. So you connect with that person. When you're finished with them, you go to the next one. You connect with that person. And so you never have to focus on what you don't want to do. You just focus on who you want to be all the time. And all of a sudden you grow. And because you grow, you become more attractive. When you become more attractive, more people are referred to you. You build a better practice. You impact humanity at a higher level, you know, and you become more successful in your practice as well, and financially, and all the rest of the beautiful things that come with that. When you live, from our starting point in this conversation, is when you live a life of purpose.
Exactly. So let me come around. I want to correct myself. The physical manifestation of joy is transfiguration. Since you just said that, peace is actually illumination. And when you're in that state and you illuminate, people come, man. This is an energetic world. When you illuminate, people just come out of nowhere and they show up in your clinic. Like your spirit comes through you, other spirits are going to show up. I always say, you know, and I learned from Jim Sigafus how to move from an adjuster to be a healer. And one of our mantras too is when you become a healer, people will show up to be healed.
Oh yeah. Like I spent $50 on an opening ad in the local newspaper when I opened my practice. And the only other thing I spent anything on was business cards. And even in this day and age, you know, 2018, I was at a conference actually. Chris went and had dinner with you and Roberto, and I was having dinner at the same hotel with somebody else. But I talked to a few people. I said, well, you already have a card? Oh, no, I don't use cards. I was like, really? And a couple of them were chiropractors. Said, you don't use cards at all? I said, no. He said, that's past. People just take the contact information from your phone. I was like, really? So let me tell you something about business cards. I handed out 5,000 business cards my first year in practice, which means I shook a lot of hands.
Right.
People started coming to me, not because I was a good chiropractor. They came because I was a nice person. And then patients started referring because I was a nice person. I was attractive to them from the perspective of who I was as a chiropractor. And we've got to connect with people. I mean, I ask young chiropractors, so tell me, what kind of business are you in? So most of them will say, well, I'm in the chiropractic business, or I'm in the healthcare business. I would say, I don't want to tell you you're wrong, but I'd like you to consider something. You're not in that business. You're in the people business. You just happen to deliver healthcare services, or you just happen to deliver a chiropractic adjustment. We're in the people business. We've got to learn to connect with people, soul to soul, like heart to heart, soul to soul. And then they get it. And then they know that you get them. And they know that you understand them. And therefore, they start to heal just because of it. Because finally somebody listens, and finally somebody gives them hope.
Right. We say that's so powerful. That's something Tony Robbins teaches. What business are you in, and what business are you really in? What business are you in is what you're selling. What business are you really in is what people are buying. And you're in the people business. So, we say chiropractors, people come in with back pain, but we want them to change the way they live their life. We're really self-empowerment people business with a healthcare application. That's
exactly
what it is, right? You want to change a person's belief system about how they want to take care of their body and live their life. So saying the business you're in is chiropractic is small. Saying you're in the people business, self-empowerment business is a bigger purpose.
Much bigger. Absolutely agree with you.
So that's awesome. I mean, now all that purpose, one of the intentions is you're doing so many great things out in the profession and life and your life college and vision. So this almost seems like a small topic compared to what we just talked about. We're on a quantum level here. So coming back to earth, what's physically going on at life? You have so many things that are great things going on.
Yeah, there's all sorts of fun stuff. I mean, on the physical plant basis, we broke ground a few months back for a $27 million residence complex. So we're going to have an extra 350 students living on campus. That's going to be open the first week of September 2018. So in just,
wow,
5 months, I guess, 5-6 months. So that's ready to go. If you heard of the Rubicon Group?
Yes.
Okay, so the Rubicon Group, for those who don't know, is made up of 6 vitalistic chiropractic institutions from New Zealand: Life Chiropractic College West, Life University, Barcelona College, McTimoney in the UK, and the Dresden Academy of Chiropractic in Germany. And they hosted their first conference in London, England in 2016, Melbourne 2017. This year they want to host it in the United States. So we gave up hosting our Life Vision event in the spring, and we're going to host the Rubicon Conference. So for those of you listening in, if you have not yet read about the Rubicon Conference, I urge you to go to therubiconconference.com. Go look at the roster of speakers. I actually did a podcast or webinar with Billy D this week, and I said, as good as CalJam was, the Rubicon Conference is probably the best chiropractic conference of 2018. And I love CalJam. I love Billy. I love his passion. And I said, certainly on the East Coast. We don't want to talk down to Billy. I'm on his podcast. I said, certainly on the East Coast and maybe the rest of the world. But our opening speaker is going to be Dr. Bruce Lipton on epigenetics, and our closing speaker is Heidi Havoc on the Sunday. And between them two, we've got like 30-odd speakers that are going to grace the stage of the Rubicon Conference. It is going to be a fantastic event that I believe is going to show solidarity in the chiropractic profession.
And what's the dates on that?
May 18th to the 20th, Friday, Saturday, and half-day Sunday, or Sunday morning till noon. And I believe it's going to show some great solidarity in the chiropractic profession. I mean, in Georgia, both chiropractic associations have decided to support the event. The ICA has decided to support the event. All sorts of other organizations have come on board, wanting to support the event. Some different coaching groups have decided to support the event. it's just fun to see the possibility of us as a profession actually coming together for the common good of humanity, not just for the common good of the chiropractic profession, but for the common good of humanity. So if you have not heard of the Rubicon Conference, I'm inviting you, go look at therubiconconference.com, register and come and experience it. It's going to be a phenomenal event with amazing knowledge being shared, amazing expertise, lots of passion, and just the science. There is so much science. If we go back to the point of there's never been a better time in history to be a chiropractor, not only is humanity ready for us, the science is actually showing that what we've been saying all along is exactly what happens to the human body. And it may not be exactly the paradigm that we thought it was, the sort of the hard bone on the soft nerve, probably not really what's happening, though it's what we thought was happening for years. But Heidi Havoc's research showing the direct impact of a subluxation on brain function and the immediate results when you correct a subluxation that shows improved brain input and output, therefore increased nervous system function. It's inevitable. It's being shown by her. It's being shown by all sorts of scientists that aren't even chiropractors that are going, oh my gosh, that's what you guys have been saying all along. That's the result. How we thought we got there may not be exactly what's going on, but the results are real.
Yeah.
The fact that patients have gotten well from whatever conditions in a chiropractor's office over the years, when the chiropractor was focused on not the condition or the symptom, but on locating, analyzing, and correcting the subluxation through a specific chiropractic adjustment. I mean, I'm alive because of it today, right? I think you know that story. I mean, I was diagnosed with primary pulmonary hypertension, told I'd be dead in 2 years unless I had a double lung and heart transplant. If I did this, there's no cut here. I didn't go through that. And maybe that's something to share with your listeners as well. Even somebody may have heard it before, but chiropractic colleagues, if you are not under regular chiropractic care with a chiropractor that you love and that loves you enough to keep a record where you're willing to make an appointment, where the chiropractor that takes care of you is willing to do regular reassessments just like he or she does with their normal practice members, if you don't have that level of care, please do me, yourself, your family, your community a favor. Get under regular chiropractic care. There are so many chiropractors I know that are not under regular care. Gilles Lamarche was one of them until 2004. And to go home to prepare myself to die, on the 14th of April, 2004, to wake up the morning of May 15th, 31 days later, and think, the first thought that came into my head was, you're an idiot. You've been preaching this chiropractic paradigm of health and healing. There's got to be something seriously wrong with your spine and nervous system. And then the next thought was, well, no, but you get checked by a chiropractor every week or two. And it was the third thought that was really the kick in the butt for me. That really woke me up, because it was, yeah, but never by the same chiropractor. Like, when's the last time you had a complete spinal neurological exam? It was like, I don't know, 15, 20 years. When's the last time you had an x-ray of your spine? Well, 15, 20 years. And when all the noise died down, I was like, oh, sheesh, I need to make an appointment, because maybe there is a chance for me. And I'll tell you, I had bought into the fact that I was going to die. I had succumbed to the half-hourly use of Ventolin for the last 6 months in practice. It's the only way I could get enough air into my lungs to be able to adjust the next group of patients, practice members. And, I reached over, made a phone call. The rest is history. My spine looked great except from C7 to T4. I started getting adjusted on a daily basis. By the end of August, my pulmonary pressure dropped in half. Within 2 years, not only did my pulmonary pressure normalize, but my cardiomegaly that had been measured at 2.5 was non-existent. Why? Because under the strain and stress of not getting enough oxygen, my body adapted. It caused my heart to grow. When that was corrected, neurologically corrected, my heart said, oh, I don't need to work that hard anymore. My heart shrunk back down to its normal size. So, I love doing these podcasts, and often it's not just the little nuggets that we can share about our lives and how we live them, but certainly for me tonight is, if you don't have a regular chiropractor, my colleagues, please just get yourself a regular chiropractor that takes as good care of you as you take care of your practice members. Anything less is unacceptable. And if you have to pay for the care, then pay for the care. It's worth it.
I would go a step further because we're in a spinal correction. There's also a difference that not only have I've experienced, but all the research shows, and as a spinal corrective doctor, there's a difference when you change curves. There's a reason.
Oh, absolutely.
There's an optimal spine. And there's tons of medical research that shows the difference in the cord conduction in corrected spines versus abnormal curves. And there's tons. Medicine is proven chiropractic these days, like what you said, not only brain function, but cord stress on the cord. So, and it's funny because as we get older, and this, and you see chiropractors with diseases like with you. And my first question is, what's your spine look like? Because some of those are getting adjusted. There is a difference with spinal correction.
Yes, I agree.
It does make a difference neurologically. So
when you say medicine is proving what we do, I think it was a 2013 Journal of Neurosurgery in 2013 where they talked about the cervical curve, and one of the papers they quote on the importance of proper cervical curvature is a paper by Deed Harrison.
Yeah,
your friend and colleague with CBP, and I loved reading that because they talk about the importance of the cervical curvature and how a kyphotic curvature or reduction of the normal cervical lordosis actually affects the quality of daily living.
Yep.
And so they go through all this paper. It's 14, 15 pages long. And I've read it a number of times. I've quoted it a number of times. And then at the end and say, that's why it's so important to have your curve corrected by having surgery and having your vertebrae fused. So they've got it right all the way until the solution that they plan is their solution from a surgical perspective. We know the solution is spinal correction.
Yep. Well,
without a doubt.
We're talking to Deed about putting CBP not only in life, but possibly in the European school.
Yes.
That you want to open. So I acknowledge you for that as making that a core value. Hey, if subluxations kill, man, let's fix them. How about that? I don't think it could be any simpler than that right there, right?
It is that simple, my friend.
So that's cool. What else? I know you have other things going on. I know we've been on here for coming up on an hour. What really important things? The Rubicon conference. Hey, I'm going to check that out because I want to be there as well.
I'd love to have you there, obviously. So yeah, the Rubicon conference is what's happening in May. We're still diligently working at opening up a chiropractic program in Rome, Italy. We have an office that's now open, so we have a man on the ground. It's not as easy as people think. It takes a lot of work on the political side. It's a different country. We want CCEUS accreditation is what we're looking to have for that institution. It will be taught in English, so it'll be open to all European countries. So that's a big deal. Lots of work going on. I'm not directly involved in that, but there's a lot of work going on at Life University to make that happen. And the target date remains spring of 2019, so not that far away. Excuse me. And then, I said fall of 2019, so like a year and a half away. And we have another one of our VPs that's actually working on the possibility of a chiropractic program in mainland China. There's only a few chiropractors in mainland China, and there's huge opportunity there for the chiropractic profession to grow. So those are some of the projects we're working on. Obviously, we've got, I think we're up to 14 or 15 NIA sports now. We're big in rugby. We've got a beautiful brand new, rugby field that opened about a year and a half ago, turf field. The guy who built that field is the same guy who built the field at the Mercedes Stadium where the Falcons play and where Atlanta United plays. We've got the Neuro Life Institute that is helping people from literally all over the world. I saw a little 6-year-old boy there today whose parents flew him in from Alaska. The child had a stroke at a young age, I think under the age of 3, I believe. And he's walked with a hand like this. And today was I think he was beginning his 3rd day of care, and he's already walking. The father said he's walking almost normal to every other child. He's never done that in his 6 years of life. So there's all sorts of great stuff going on, at the university with, great clinicians, and we're just working at bringing chiropractic to the world, and really the Rubicon group is all about that. It's about staying steadfast on the traditional principles of chiropractic, functioning from a neurologically centered model of subluxation and teaching vitalistic lifestyle. That's what we are. And that's what we work diligently every single day to get our students to understand. That's what we work at getting our staff and faculty to understand. Sometimes there's little humps and bumps along the way, but it works. We have assembly 3 times a week. Tomorrow, our new president, Dr. Rob Scott, is the assembly speaker that I'll be running tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. We'll have, 1,600 students there. In the fall, we host our fall celebration, which is fall CE event. Last year, we had 1,670 chiropractors on our event. And all chiropractors, right? So we're hosting that again September 26th to the 30th. That's 100% continuing education based, held on campus, 11 or 12 rooms going at any one time, a couple hundred here, 100 here, a couple hundred there. But we're doing all sorts of work to truly positively support the chiropractic profession with the goal of impacting humanity. It's a big goal.
Well, you're making a big impact, that's for sure. I mean, you just look at what you just said and the amount of energy that takes and the amount of life force and the amount of vision and the teamwork is truly astounding. I don't think, unless you're really immersed in it, you really don't understand. So for all of us that don't quite have that experience of understanding, truly just thank you.
I love it. It's become a calling. I say it's a retirement job, but when I look at the hours that I put in at life, I have never worked this much in my life ever. I mean, I was seeing 800 people a week working a third of the hours that I actually put in when I'm at life. Okay, so it's 10:03 here. Yeah. And literally I have been working since 2:15 this morning.
Yeah, nice. Well, I've considered that a long day.
Because I'm on vacation next week, and I had a lot of stuff that I really, really wanted to get done. And I said to my wife, well, if I wake up, I'm just getting up. So I got up at 2:15, and I literally have gone all day long today. But it's so much fun. Like, I know when I hit the bed in 10 minutes, I'm going to pass right out, and I'll sleep, and I'll be ready to get going tomorrow morning. But I know that before I fall asleep, I'll tell myself, I'll close my eyes, I'll say, tomorrow when I awaken, I'm going to greet this day with love in my heart. Every person, every situation, every circumstance, because I choose to make my life sacred. And they will be the first words that I input into my brain again in the morning.
Well, I don't think there's a more powerful way to end this podcast. So thank you for all you do. And, we'll be there. We'll certainly be there to support you. Everybody, just go to the Rubicon Conference and let's be involved and contribute. Thanks, Shields.